sharing your stories and playing your songs on Graham's JFDI Show.
Again, you give me back that feeling, yeah, again. You give me back that feeling, yeah, again. I want you just to shout it out. And give it up, we give it out. Shout it.
Good evening. It's Thursday, the 4th of April, 8 o'clock, and welcome. Last week's guest said it was like being back in the jungle, and it is a bit dangly and high G's. I'm really excited to be back for another JFDI show tonight, because wait till you see who I've got along to have a chat to you about tunes and life and stuff, being a Wim Hof instructor and all that cool kind of jazz. Do you know who we've got? It's another Scottish instructor. So last week you had Darren Adam. The week before you had Grant Sampson. I now have a wonderful young lady to introduce you to, who is a business owner, owns Manifest Hypnotherapy and Wellbeing Clinic in Kirkintilloch. I have paid a visit for some reiki. Also a clinical hypnotist, I think. Clinically, I do believe no dancing chickens is the promise. A very different type of hypnosis. I mentioned a Reiki master and a very cool Wim Hof instructor as well. Listen, my fellow Wim Hof instructor and good friend, please give a big JFDI show welcome to Victoria Cumming. Good evening. How are you?
Oh, good evening. I'm really, really well. Thank you so much again for having me on.
Oh, listen, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm trying to see whether or not we've got a better view. Oh no. I think we want to stick with that one. Yeah. There's sometimes a better angle, and sometimes not. You're all good. So how are you? How's your week been until I can't believe it's Thursday again.
Oh, I know. April, if I'm being
I
honest.
know. I know.
But yeah, it's been a great week. I really love this time of year. Spring's amazing. So I've had a great week.
Good. We're just saying to Victoria, I think I'm starting to feel spring myself. Ideas springing to mind, and yeah, it's keeping going in the straight direction. That's the problem for me. So we're going to talk about tunes, but business owner. I was on I had a look on your website earlier on, and I was all chuffed because I was like, oh, I recognise that picture, and it was the one from Tarbert where we were all together for the first time last year.
Yeah, it's an amazing picture. Such a good memory. I loved that moment.
It was great, wasn't it?
Honestly, such a great experience. I'm so excited for next week. I can't believe.
I know. It seems like so much has happened in that year since then. But then, as I was just saying before we came on, it also feels like so much has happened since the reunion. It's just been such a mad month. Do you know what? I think before we get cracking on the songs, because I didn't do this last time, and what I don't like doing is that it's okay. Is it like if I've got the comments on and anybody come on, it's nice to say hello. So if you're joining to tune in and see what Victoria's banter is like tonight, folks, then say hello, because we'll need to get these across to our UK and European and worldwide Wim Hof instructor pals. that are interested to understand more of the banter for the west of Scotland and the towards the I'm right here. I'm neither west nor east, but listen, that's here, neither here nor there. We're going to talk about your music.
Yeah.
And we so I didn't ask it. Are we in the order in which you gave me? Are you happy to do them in that order?
Yeah, there's no particular order, but yeah, crack on.
Right. Okay. Because sometimes the chronologically, but sometimes, and this is why I say, do you know what? It just as they come, because it's nice as they come to mind. So did you give me them in the order that they came to mind?
Yeah, and they sort of sprung out almost. There's just a few songs that I've got, but they really are like they're really, really powerful and meaningful songs to me. I love all music. I'm a really, really big fan of music, but those songs in particular just really stand out for really significant times in my life. And
Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Okay. And you know what? I don't actually ask that often, because sometimes, like right at the start, and I think it's nice to know that up front, because sometimes and you know what? I love it either way, because it just means that for a slightly different direction that we're going with the show, which is fantastic. So that is cool. I listened to them in the order you gave me them to me. So I listened to 9 p.m. Till I Come by ATB first, and I was pumping this guy as well. So what was happening? Was it whether it was at a particular time in your life? Was it when it came out, or?
so yeah, in my childhood, and it reminds me of my childhood a lot with, my parents at that time, more so my mum. My mum was just so out there, like as in like loved her music, loved to dance, loved to party. And that particular song, I just remember so much her and her friend Elaine playing it. So as I was growing up, I remember I didn't hear it for so long, and I think I was in my teens, and you start getting into like the party scene and all the madness, and that song came on and I was like, oh my god, just that sound of it. And it just took me back. So it's always a song that I kind of come back to anytime that I want to feel uplifted, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Can you think of an occasion? Can you think of an occasion when that sort of like around that time when you needed uplifted? And is there a time back then that you can think, and regardless of how, like, just anything that springs to mind, where you were like, and it just kind of, because I know those moments where you're lifted.
Yeah, not anything in particular, just more as in like a general. It's always a sort of go-to song that, even if I'm like, feeling a bit kind of a wee bit lethargic in the morning, feeling a bit kind of down in myself, before my shower, I'll just stick that on. And it's just that sound, it's the beat of it. And it just gets me going. And it just takes me right back to that. I just get like images of my mum dancing with it. And that just fuels me so much. I love it. Time, it's just more in general, that's like my sort of go-to song if I need a good boost.
Right. So it takes you to your mum, clearly a massive part of one's life. So tell me then, how in terms of like looking back in family and sort of upbringing, how do you think that your childhood has kind of shaped the like your choice of profession? And I'm not sure whether or not you did anything what you did before, if there was a profession before what you're doing now. But how do you think regardless, how do you think your childhood sort of shaped that sort of direction of where to go?
Massively. And I'm an open book. I've spoken openly about my past and what I've done before, the healing and the hypnotherapy side of things. And yeah, definitely my childhood shaped things massively, in the sense of, like a lot of people experienced a lot of trauma in my childhood. I lost my mum very early on, and that sort of spiraled things out of control. So my dad very much kind of turned to alcohol, just loads of stuff. He was a great dad, But that then sent me down a trajectory of being out, you know, hanging about with the wrong crowd, this and that. And yeah, ended up in with the wrong people. I had a lot of bad experiences, and that led me to then, you know, getting therapy when I was first pregnant. So I fell pregnant, got some therapy, hypnotherapy, after trying to get, you know, stuff off the doctor. And through this, that's what led me down this path. I never ever thought for a second when I first, you know, had the therapy that I would ever be doing it, you know, that I'd ever be a hypnotherapist myself. I was just mind blown how much we could change, because I was really stuck. You know, I had so much anxiety. I was very, you know, depressed. I had low self-esteem, had like not confident at all. And yeah, that was due to, you know, things that had happened in my childhood. So just the way that we grew up. I was very bullied in school relentlessly from my parents, and just being different. Like growing up in Lenzie, it's quite a like well-off area, I would say. And just when you're different, it's you don't fit in, and kids can just be brutal. So yeah, I was just in a very difficult place in childhood, and as I say, it just left me in this space of being completely lost.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. In what way, you see what you said didn't fit in?
Mhm.
And can you elaborate on that? In what sense? Like what was the
So
driving factor behind that?
because now I can look back, because I love who I am now. I'm very, very unique as a person, and I know that now, and I can really own that, and I get it. I really understand myself now. But back then, I was just so different. I don't know. It was like I would dye my own hair, for example. Like I was in primary school, and I used to go up to the chemist, and like however I used to get like money, you know, pocket money or whatever it was, or just like finding like change from like my dad, and I would go up to the chemist and buy hair dye. And at one point, I remember trying to dye my hair completely blonde, and it was just like all ginger and just a mess. And I was just very out there. I was very outspoken as well. You know, if I ever like seen something or heard something that I didn't agree with, I wasn't the type of person that would just fit in. Later on in life, I became a sort of people pleaser. But early on in childhood, I definitely couldn't, you know, just try and fit in. So I think that just made me kind of stand out a little bit. And, you know, when somebody stands out, you're just an easy target for bullies.
Ah, yes. Okay. I understand. It crazy though, isn't it? So where do you think? Can you think, like you say, you know, like when you think about how you felt back then, it was like, you know, I think what happened next, like from there, how did that, you know, did it kind of spiral one direction? Was there something happened that kind of changed trajectory at some point?
Yeah, so well, primary school obviously led into high school. High school again just wasn't great, didn't fit in, didn't enjoy it. Even like, you know, the teachers, it was very much, you know, a case of if you weren't doing well at school, you weren't kind of, I don't know how to sort of put that into words, but it just wasn't a great time. So I never used to really be at school. And then I started drinking, as a lot of young kind of teens do. But then what had happened was I was out, you know, drinking at the weekends, and I was approached by an older guy who lived in a different area, and from there he kind of proceeded to, the term is grooming, and I never knew any of this until I went for hypnotherapy. You know, I just thought all this was really, really normal, and a lot of young teens are out and they're engaging in behaviours with older people, and it is wrong. But I ended up living with this guy, so I was 14 when all this started, and at the time I was just saying to my dad, you know, I'm going to stay at my friend's house, and just like lying basically. And then eventually, you know, it kind of came out when I was about sort of just before I turned 16. I said, you know, I've got this boyfriend and this is where I've been staying. So I was with him for a long time, and it was a very abusive relationship. And I left school when I was 16. So I left as soon as I could, and I went and I had started a beauty college course, which this guy did not like, you know, up till this point. So I'd been living there for, say, about 2.5 years. And as soon as I started college, he was just like, no, like, you're going to get stolen away from me. Like, you're going to leave, all this type of stuff. Obviously knowing, you know, that things were going to change. But that really kind of moulded me at that point. So I went to college, and it was great. I met some amazing people. I'm still good friends with the girls that I went to college with, just the best girls ever. But I was working in jobs as well. You know, I had a job in a salon, but I was very chaotic in the mind. Just drinking. That was all I was ever used to, was just drinking. In the house that I lived in with this individual, you know, there was just a lot of drinking. It was every single day. There was drugs involved. You know, it was really chaotic. So I was a chaotic person at that time. So I couldn't really hold down a job. So when I was 19, I ended up lap dancing for money. And to be honest, people look at that and they go, "Oh my God, that's like, oh, like, it's like something like the Jeremy Kyle show. It's like really traumatic." But to be honest, at that stage in my life, it served me well. It might sound strange, but it did. I went from being in an environment with, so I'd left this person, just to give a bit of context, and I went into like the lap dancing world, and I had my own flat by this point, and I felt very protected and safe because, you know, the guys can't approach you, like, you know, they can't touch you, they can't video you, they can't, you know, proposition you, and they're very, very, very strict in these environments about that. So I just felt very protected and very safe, and I was able to make some money and make new friends as well. You know, the girls, it was like this sisterhood. So that's where my journey was at that point, and it kind of.
Crikey. And those girls, that sisterhood, are they? Is there any of them still friends with you now?
Yeah, loads.
Brilliant.
I mean, just same with college, just met the most amazing girls through it, the most amazing women through it, who have the most incredible stories as well. And a lot of us, we're still very friendly. I mean, don't see each other every day. Everybody's got their own lives.
Oh,
I mean,
unbelievable. So I guess then, what was it that I guess what was it then that inspired you to I guess from where you were at then to do what you're doing now?
yeah.
How
I
did
know, because it's
how did all of that come about?
such a big transition. And as I say, I fell pregnant when I was 23. So I've been, you know, lap dancing for a long time, fell pregnant, and that was the first time in my life, Graham, that I was ever sober, you know, and not really understanding this either. I didn't like stop and go, "Oh, I'm sober," for once, you know. It was just something that obviously was happening because you're pregnant. And that made me sort of question myself and my behaviours. I was very angry, you know, very depressed. I had, you know, a lot of suicidal thoughts, things like that. And through losing my own mum, I just always remember thinking, like, you cannot be this way. Like, you can't be having these intrusive thoughts and you're bringing a child into the world. Like, you have to be here. Because I was always thinking was, if you're not here, what's going to happen to this child? You know, they're going to end up going through the same trajectories that I went through. So I went to the doctor, and I was saying to the doctor, you know, because I started Googling it. This was the first thing that I'd done. I just Googled, I don't really like to go outside. It was just so strange. Just Googling my feelings, and it came up saying social anxiety. So I was reading about that, and it was resonating. Then I was clicking, it was like a Wikipedia. So then it went into anxiety and then depression. And I'm going, oh my God, I was like, this is me. This is describing epiphany. So I went to the doctor and I was like, I think I've got X, Y, and Z. Broke down to the doctor, and you know, I didn't know and understand about the mental health system either. I was very naive to the mental health system at this stage, you know. So I'm just thinking, right, it's a doctor, you're going to go there and they're going to fix me, type thing. But the doctor was very much like, yeah, we can give you these tablets, or we can put you on a waiting list to speak to somebody. And I'd heard through conversations of these tablets and just feeling numb. Nothing against them for other people, but for myself, I thought, I don't want to feel numb because I'm quite numb as it is, and I want to feel joy again. I want to feel, you know, happiness and all those good emotions. And if I'm numb, I probably won't get a chance to feel that. So I remember saying to the doctor, like, I don't want the tablets, but I'll try the waiting list. So she's like, just phone this number. And I was riddled with like anxiety at the time, phone anxiety. I couldn't pick up a phone to phone a Chinese, never mind this number. Tried it one day, and then they tried to phone me back, and I've obviously ignored the call. So long story short, I got kind of nowhere with that, and it was my cousin Karen. She'd been for a stop smoking session with a hypnotherapist. My hypnotherapist John is amazing, and she said, you know, he deals with grief as well. She was like, because I'd opened up to him that, you know, a lot of stuff had been like coming out and things like that, and she said, you know, he deals with grief. Why don't you go and speak to this guy? And I thought, right, £65, what have I got to lose? Just got in it. Like, I thought, at least he's a professional, you know, and if anything, he can help to kind of guide me in some sort of direction. So I went to see John, and he was just incredible. I just spoke, you know, about what had happened, explained everything, and he's the one that kind of awakened me to the fact that it was grooming and all the stuff that had happened was wrong. So we did our first session and it was regressing back into the past. So I couldn't, when I was speaking about my mum at this point, I couldn't actually vocalise, my mum had passed away. I just couldn't say it. I used to actually lie. Like if somebody had asked me about my mum, I'd be like, yeah, she'll be down to the shop. Or just, so I just like would be like, oh, like sometimes I could tell some people, but it's just like this horrible feeling that I really hadn't dealt with it, and I'm thinking it's just grief. But we done this regression, went way back in time, and it turns out that it was a lot of guilt that I was holding on to. So my mum was unwell with cancer, breast cancer at the time when I was maybe 6-7 years old, and she passed away when I was 8. So there was a vivid memory in hypnosis that it took me back to when she was unwell, and she'd asked me to go and get, like a headscarf, and I'd picked up and I went, as if that's disgusting. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of guilt while in hypnosis. And it was like this, oh my goodness, like I hadn't been there for her. And what I was able to do was go back into that space and speak to her, the way that I would as an adult, and kind of offload that and just tell her everything that I wasn't able to tell her at that time. And that was really therapeutic for me, that really helped me to grieve her healthily. And ever since that kind of point, I was always, and I still am, able to speak about her in a much different way. It gave me that closure. And we worked through 5 different sessions. First one was obviously with grief, and then we worked 2 sessions with my anger. I had so much suppressed anger from all different experiences in my life. We worked a lot with that. And then we went in with, low self-esteem and confidence. And by the end of these sessions, I just felt, not completely transformed, but very, very, very different. And that was the moment when my mind opened up. And I remember thinking, we can change. I used to just think if you get brought up a certain way and you go through things, I just thought, Graham, that's you for the rest of your life. Like, basically, that's how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
And I had this realisation is that I'd lost a friend as well to mental health not long before this, and I just couldn't stop thinking about her. I just couldn't stop thinking, imagine like we had this information, maybe we could have changed it, maybe we could have helped each other, and all this stuff starts coming into your mind. So I started to research. I started to go through my first stage of awakening, I would say, and started just researching subconscious mind, neuroscience, hypnosis, and this went on for years. So I was still dancing. I was still, doing my thing and raising my son, and that was fine, kind of working on myself. And it wasn't actually until lockdown when I was approached to do the actual diploma course of it. My hypnotist came to me. I'd lost my job during lockdown because all the clubs had closed, and my hypnotist came and he was like, I'm running this course. Why don't you just join it? I'll let you pay it up. I think you'd be great for it. I thought, yeah, because I've been studying this for about however many years as it is. Like I just wanted to learn so much more, and never thinking that I would actually turn it into a career, just thinking more for like myself and those who were close around about me. And yeah, I done the diploma course, and it was after I passed. I remember I got my diploma through the letterbox, and I was sitting looking at it on the couch, and I remember going, this is amazing, but who's going to honestly take you serious as a hypnotherapist? Like, you've just like a lap dancer for all these years, and I just this horrible like limited mindset. But I was very much into like the law of attraction, all of this kind of stuff. I'd been years reading these books and watching all this stuff. These different neuroscientists, what practice what you preach. You're sharing all these positive quotes online, about limiting beliefs and believing yourself. I thought, what have you got to lose? Go and just post it. And just share, I'm offering these sessions and just see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? And I was getting clients, and it was just great. The transformational results, and because I could really empathise with them as well and really kind of be there in that space with them, it was really beautiful. So that's where that started to grow. I just started that in my living room. Clients were just coming to the house, or I was going out to their house, and yeah it just started to kind of spiral, Graham. And then a couple of years ago, I got the opportunity open up the clinic. I know, and it's just been kind of one thing after another, and it's really like, even still to me, I'm still like, wow, like how did that? But I know how it manifested itself. But it's like, wow. And
do you know, you've just described, I mean, that and for me, that butterfly now.
Yeah.
It's such a, it's such an amazing. Did you see me? It's not often that I don't talk. I try not to interrupt, and I'm so glad that I didn't and let you talk. One, thank you for sharing that with me, and with everyone else. I take my hat off to you, and for so many reasons. But for somebody that's sitting in front of you tonight knows what it's like to kind of feel like there's just how do I get out of this place and really kind of put some thought and effort, especially when and kind of I just got one question, right? At the and this is a quick at the bottom in here, when things were like absolutely at the worst, and like what one pinpoint moment, right? Is there something like words that can take you back, or like, because I know, listen, I love a phrase as well, a bit of advice, be it a bit of advice, a quote, something that sticks in your mind from like those lowest of moments that have kind of like stood you in good stead ever since.
I can't think of a specific quote, but I always come back to, it's not the law of attraction, it's not The Secret book, but it's like another sort of version of that. It's The Key to Living the Law of Attraction, Jack Canfield. And that was the first book that I read that made me go, right, okay, you can actually like think differently, and then you can feel differently. So I always, if people ask me like what's something that I can read, because you can watch it as well, it's actually on YouTube, and it's just like always kind of come back to, just to remind yourself that actually you've got choices and you can feel different.
Do you know what's interesting? That name rings a bell, and actually, it's the other one. I at a moment in time, I remember a boss telling me about The Secret.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much The Secret and the impact that it had. It was the knock-on effect, maybe similar. It was the knock-on effect of all of the other people that she referenced in that telling that I kind of like followed up on. Like, what was his name? Bob. Like, Jack Canfield was in there. There was who else was in there? The guy Bob. Is it Bob Doyle? There's a number of loads of different people that she references in there. And it was like you know what you were saying about like Googling this, and then the spider grows arms and legs, and you're down that rabbit hole, and before you know it, you're you can't stop.
Yeah, and somebody once said to me, about being a victim, and I remember at the time thinking, how cheeky are you? How dare you? You can't call me that. Like, you can't say that to me. But it never left me, and I'm so glad that this in particular person said this, because I remember thinking, like, you're treating yourself like an absolute victim. Like, everything's all poor me, it's all going wrong, it's all negative. And yeah, we can honour ourselves and our feelings, but then there can come a stage where we're just damaging our own, kind of trajectory. It's like we become powerless to these experiences. Like, we might be victimised at one stage, but we don't have to continue victimising ourselves every day for the rest of our lives. And it can be very easy, to get sucked in to that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I absolutely love that, and it's like that's my number one JFDI is that looking yourself in the mirror when you really need to, and sometimes that looking in the mirror, you need to be able to give that person a little hug, and sometimes when you look in the mirror, you need to be able to give that person a little pat on the back, and sometimes you need to look that person in the mirror and give them a kick up the arse. And I think that's the whole underpinning of JFDI. So I'm going to score the question off that I always ask my guests: how do you JFDI? I think the last 20 minutes have explained to me how you JFDI, but I do have lots more questions for you still. However, before I ask you more questions, shall we talk about your second song choice, which is the one that we were dancing to when we came in the green room, "Sky Full of Stars" by Coldplay.
The best. Yeah, it's amazing. So that song is the song that my first song was born to. And do you know what, Graham? I'd forgotten that he was born to this song. It wasn't until like, months later and then it's like clicked on. But then it was, kind of months and years later that I realised like the real symbolism behind that song, in a sky full of stars. I think I saw you and just going to tear me apart because my son, he really saw a lot of, kind of unhealed parts of me, and yeah, I really thank him for that. He's just the most incredible young man ever, and we've got such a close relationship, and anything, and he loves that song as well. Anytime I play that song, he knows that that's his song, and just that he's so special in this Sky Full of Stars, and it can be quite cheesy and cliche, but it just means so much, and when I listen to it, it just reminds me so much of how lucky I am because he saved me. If without my son being here, none of this would even be in existence right now.
Yeah. And so I guess when you think of like the change that's happened, how do you think then now you've taken like that personal journey? How has that influenced your current approach to wellness therapy?
So yeah, I think it's influenced in the sense that everybody's individual, everybody's unique. I think if I just went to like college or university and learned this stuff, I wouldn't have such a deep understanding, and it can be quite maybe easy to go out there and say, yeah, just do this, a wee bit of CBT, a wee bit of this and that. But every human being is just so unique and individual, and you have to treat the person as the unique, amazing individual that they are. And yeah, that's definitely what this has done for me, I feel like, when I'm working.
So I've got a perfect question for you then, right? With that in mind, how do you, so I love I love understanding other sort of creative process. And I get that, like, the way in which the mind works, and just from what you were saying about like that sort of getting into the areas of like understanding more about how your brain works and stuff like that, and how we tune into the universe and stuff. How do you go about customizing your approach to meet the kind of unique goals then of your sort of each unique client, as it were?
So this is where it can maybe get a bit woo-woo for some people.
Come on.
I like to say it, and I do believe this. I very much read and feel energy. It's not so much that I read it; it's I feel energy. So when I'm in somebody's energy, this is why I love face-to-face sessions. I do remote sessions as well, and yeah, they work just as well. But when you're in somebody's energy field, you can really feel that person. So somebody can be telling you a story, and you're just feeling and reading between the lines with that person, so especially with like breath work, for example, you can really feel that energy starting to come to life. And that's where then I sort of guide the sessions, like the songs that I'm choosing, the words that I'm saying, just how I navigate it. Even like a Reiki session, for example, it's always different for the individual. I could be coming in like some individuals, it's just maybe just like nice and peaceful, hands over. Other people, it's like drums, and you've got like it's going and everything, like just all sorts of different stuff, because that's what I intuitively kind of feel and read, that's what that person needs. Yeah. It's very different.
It's absolutely, see, that actually fascinates me, and I know what you mean. Some people think it's a bit woo-woo, yeah. but I think the wonderful scientist whose name now has actually lost. It'll come to me. But basically, like what you're saying, life is all about Tesla. He says if you want to the Nikola Tesla, the dude who Elon Musk has named his company after, right? Said that if you want to understand all of the secrets and meaning of life, then you need to look at energy and something else. But but pretty much energy and one more word. But you know what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what it's all about. Feeling kind of, energies, vibrations, the whole shooting match, right?
Definitely. And we can be quite disconnected as human beings. And, when we start to come more into connection with ourselves and with the earth and with each other, that's where then we get like a whole new level of senses where we can really start to read and feel and understand each other in a completely new way, which is, I just love that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is absolutely fantastic. And I've got another, right. No, listen, before we go on any further, I'm gonna take the only liberties that I get to take on this show and take the opportunity to move on to the next song.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited when I saw this song on, because it's like I have my own. There's not often that a guest comes on and chooses a song that I've got my own story for as well.
Yeah.
And I've got a story for this as well, but I want to hear all about Champagne Supernova by Oasis. I've only got one question, right, to ask. And I think try and think really specific, because I've heard the journey, right? But I'm trying to think like really specific. Maybe it was around the time you first heard this, or maybe it was a point in time. But I thought I need to ask: is there any time that you've felt that you were caught beneath the landslide?
So I have got my own. Now it's so funny. This song reminds me of my dad, right? And I remember like years ago. Remember we were talking about it, and we're going like, "What does that actually mean? Like, what is a champagne supernova in the sky? Like, what is this? Like, what are the meanings to this song? It's so confusing." And for me, the song, when I think about a landslide and I think about this song, so the camp is my number one place. Love it for the waterfalls. Love it for cold water therapy. Just loved it as a child. Time called at the pools, and I recently found out that the Campsies is a landslide. I never realised this. So there's a cave up the Campsies which is just magical. It's a place that I love to go. I've been so many times, and when I sort of put two and two together in my mind, I think about this landslide, caught beneath the landslide, and this champagne supernova in the sky. I just think about my dad, and I think about like meeting him down there and just like almost like where this began with the cold water therapy, because that's where I was up at Campsies, and it just started. It just like get into that water, go and do it.
So take us back to that day, because this is fantastic. You've told me this certainly little bit snippets of it when we've been speaking, but take us back to that day before you went up, right at the start of the day. How were you feeling? What was going on? What was happening around you at the time, and just tell us about how that day panned out.
Yeah. So I was obviously on this healing journey, so just put that out there, on this journey, but still very much human, still feeling, as we do. So I was feeling very pent up, quite angry, quite almost like very sad and just angry, very inside of myself. So I thought, I'm going to go up to the Campsies. It's only 15 minutes away. It's just a go-to place. And I was into meditation at this time, like newly into meditation. So I was like, go up there and light up your incense stick, do whatever. So I was up there and I was sitting on this rock, and everything is so vivid about that day. I even remember a green insect landing on me. It's just so vivid on this rock, because I'd went from the cave and I'd climbed down. There's like another like hidden pool underneath this cave. I climbed down and it was just a beautiful space. And it was the end of September. I had my hat on. It was cold, you know, like no dry robes or anything like that. Didn't know about Wim Hof, didn't know about any of this stuff. But something was telling me to get into that water. I must have subconsciously been watching people at this time doing cold water therapy. I was like, get water. So I just stripped off. I had literally like my underwear on and this woolly hat, and it was like Facebook. And I'm just, yeah, and this cold water. I remember thinking, you have lost it. You have really lost it now. You're just like, what are you doing? And I get out, and that way I was laughing. Imagine somebody come down here, they are bum out, and that. So I was laughing. That was that kind of shift. I was like, oh my God, I felt different. So I'm phoning up my son, and I'm going, I've just got water, and they're all going, oh, that's like, loads of people do this in Scotland. There's Wim Hof. What's this all about? So that's where that started, because I started then like because I'd felt different, because I'd went from being really like, oh, I just feel good, to then feeling euphoric. And then I was like dancing up that hill just by myself. I'm like, oh my God, like, woo, tunes were on, and the home, like, great. So I'm going to start one of these 30-day challenges and start this.
And so how long was it between then and you deciding, right, okay, I have to, you know, what was there another moment where you were like, right, I need to take this to other people? So you kind of got into that down that journey of, right, okay, this is really helping my life. Was there a moment when you kind of went, I need to take this to, I need to share this with others?
So instantly, and not thinking yet about being the Wim Hof method. You know, I'm still much just watching stuff, document. That wasn't like the big thing. At that point, I didn't know who Wim Hof, his story. Instantaneously, people have to know about this and need to know how this feels. And I was like not pushing, but maybe people get it. I was just like, try it, just get in. Like, it's amazing. I didn't know anything about it. We're all just going to waterfalls in 10-15 minutes, like hitting after drops, but like feeling great, all this. And I had my pod outside, hypnotherapy client up to me, and they were like, see, next time can I get my swim shorts and my bikini in there? And I'm going, aye, great, why not? But then it started to kind of dawn on me. I was like, what if I'm one of these people, or like just I started to get realistic, and I was like, right, I need better. Like, people were asking me about how to reduce inflammation, how to loss, and I don't know, it just makes me feel really, really good. So I was thinking, right, you need to start Googling how to become a Wim Hof instructor, and I was really shocked at the price. And at this point, there was just, I had like absolutely like no money whatsoever at this point. I was still like, kind of cleaning off debt in the past, and it was into a little bit of money. So I did a short while after that, and that's when I decided to go meet Wim Hof, because BBC and stuff, very analytical. I was like, who is this guy? Why is he on the BBC? I was like, I really want to go and meet him, and I feel in the horse's mouth what his intentions are. And as I say, like, I feel energy. I'm in somebody's energy field if they're telling the truth. I feel like I can feel that. So I went over to Holland, house, done the 2 with him, and it was just incredible. He really set my fire for this, you know, between the breathwork and just the hypnotic suggestions that he would give everybody, you know, like about your purpose and about this world and what it's like. He's just incredible. And he sat inside the yacht. So after the fundamental workshop was over and done with, he could have just went to bed, you know, and been like, right, good night, I'll see you on the morning. But he never invited everybody into this yacht, and there was like 60 odd people there. And he sat with his non-alcoholic beer, and he just listened to everybody's story. People were speaking, Graham, for about 5-10 minutes per person. So we were there for hours. And he just sat there, like, really eye contact, like, listening intently. And I was like, this guy's the real deal. So the next, you know, and done all that, and it was Leandre. I remember asking Leandre, because I was going through like my kind of journey with alcohol as well. You know, at this point, I was asking Leandre, I was like, what do you think the chances are that I could become an instructor? Because I had a bit of money at this point. It was becoming that I could invest in this. And Leandre was like, just go and do it, go and sign up. Because I was like, I've not finished off the online fundamentals yet, and this and that. And he was like, go and do it, just go and do it. And he really inspired me as well with like the alcohol side of things as well. I was going through this kind of, should I be drinking all the time? I was drinking to excess and whatever. So I came home and I just signed up, just instantly signed up. I was like, yeah, great, this is me, this is what I'm doing now. And yeah, I'm so glad that I did. As you know, it's just incredible.
Do you know, and isn't it? I love how our like different journeys of different instructors' paths kind of cross as well, because I met Leandre at the reunion for the first time. Mark Hume had sat down to have dinner with him, and I walked over with another one of our fellow instructors and sat down next to Leandre for lunch, and that was the first time I'd met him. What a lovely fella as well. He was talking about the French centre.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Have you been there?
Oh, but I would love to go. It's something that's definitely on my bucket list, is getting over there.
Do you think we should? Do you think we should get a group of us together and ask them to do us a good deal?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be ace? I did say to him, and Mark, because Mark and I were having a conversation with him, and it was a kind of a field that it was. Let's just say it was a bit of a field of dreams conversation. A Kevin Costner, build it and they will come. So I kind of feel that, you know, we better stick to our word, stick to my word anyway.
I get a great opportunity to go over there as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Like a little bit closer to home. I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember the last time that I was in the Campsie Hills. It must have been, I don't know. I can't even remember. I can't even remember being there, and I must have been there when I was young, because my mum and dad were from like Bishopton, and my folks were like Greenock, and I was like between Paisley and Glasgow quite a lot. So it's, you know, I just don't remember being there, but is there not parts of it? I don't want to speak ill of it, but does it still attract the young team? Is that the best way to put it?
So unfortunately, because you can get a bus, there's like literally you can get a bus right from Glasgow. It's like the X85 or something, right to like the Campsies. So during the hotter months, it's just a hot spot for people to go drinking. It's a bit like Falls of Falloch. However, I will let you in a little secret. There are literally hundreds of pools up the Campsies. So there's other places that you can go and park. So for example, when I was a child, my dad used to park like on the road, and we used to scramble down the hill, and we used to get these beautiful pools that nobody would be at, because all the teenagers would be down there doing their thing. And there's just loads of other pools to get completely to yourself. So yeah. That's it.
I hear you. I'll need to get a few pins from you.
Yeah.
Do you know, you want to be? Have you done any of the? You know, you should do what Emma does in the lakes. You should do that in the Campsies.
What's that?
Have you not watched her Emma Estrella's videos?
I've seen some of them. Do you mean just documenting where she goes?
Yeah.
I used to do a bit of that. Do you know, we used to go out every weekend. We had a group of us, the Vibe Tribe, and we used to literally go out every single weekend, especially during lockdown, because nobody was doing anything. So like loads. In fact, there was one day we done a charity. We done 10 different waterfalls throughout Scotland. You know,
wow.
It's like the Infinity Pool, the Hermitage Bridge. Like there's just so many different spots in Scotland.
Do you know what? How amazing would like a big Scotland? How many do you think that we could do in a day?
Depends where you're going. you're going, you can fit quite a lot. And see if like you start, because we started at the Campsies, we done like the Campsies, the Loop of Fintry, then it was a pulpit, and then we ended up, you know, off in another direction. So there's quite a few, and then over Ayrshire, like kind of Largs direction as well. There's quite a few over that direction, which are gorgeous.
How many people do you think that we could get involved if we pulled our collective resources to organise that?
All you need to do is show people the pictures, because I'm not even joking. Like, Scotland has got the most incredible waterfalls in this world. I'm going to say it, in the world. Like, we really, really do. Like, it's just phenomenal. You know, especially.
Are you going to Skye?
I'm not, unfortunately. I wish I was.
You're not.
Oh, but this year.
We'll just have to chat about that at Tarbert, because that's a big that would attract some attention.
We're so lucky here in Scotland. It's just phenomenal spots to go to.
It's amazing. And you know, I've been lazy with my barrel in my garden because of where I am. I just make excuses for not getting into nature more. The only time that I tend to kind of go in, and we've got the Avon Lagoon quite close, and I've never been over, but I have I used to go with the, you know, the Edinburgh Blue Balls guys.
Yeah.
Over in Portobello.
Yeah.
No, not Portobello, is it?
Is it there that's called Portobello?
It is. That's exactly where it is. I went over there a few times with those guys, and that has been they're a great bunch, and their Instagram is. Have you seen their Instagram?
No, I need to go and check it out.
They are honestly some of the nicest guys. Mark, the guy that sort of that kind of started it all. There's a few good kind of mini documentaries that he's done as well, and they're fantastic. Great bunch of guys, great initiative. Kind of it came out of lockdown pretty much. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And then obviously we've got the guys down your end as well that were featured in Miss Hooley from Balamori. I can't remember the actress's name. She did that program where they went down to the Polar Bear Club. Yeah.
Oh my God, they are just the most incredible people. Just the best. Like, they're doing really, really great stuff for the communities around about here. Just the best people.
Wonderful. Oh, right. Listen, I'm getting diverted. Let's do your last song.
Yes, this is
which I'm gonna let you introduce this yourself, because I will not do it justice. So, Victoria, your last song is.
I cannot pronounce it. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, let me try it, because it looks like Sensei Rerai by Lolly Cosmica.
Yes. Oh my God. And do you know what? The reason why I can't pronounce it is just because I just hear that song. It was sung live actually during an ayahuasca ceremony that I attended in Malaga. And just, it was, oh wow. And I hadn't heard it since I had been over there, and it came on YouTube. I just did like a playlist playing. I was doing breath work, you know, and you know how like YouTube just comes away with like the most random playlists, and it came on. And I remember filming myself because I posted it on Instagram. I was like, this song, and just nobody will like understand unless they've had that kind of experience, like, you know yourself with music, like it's just so personal. And it's just so, oh wow, it just takes me right back into the Maloka, into that ceremony, just right back there. I love it.
Oh man, do you know what? Like all of these songs, right? That you've described and you've explained, right? 9 p.m. Sky Full of Stars, Champagne Supernova, Sensei Rerai. I think I'm thinking that hopefully does it justice. right? They reflect such in what you've discussed as well, quite a diverse range of emotions, right, from each of those. And then we spoke earlier about like energy and stuff like that. So it sounds very much, and you mentioned this right back at the start, but I'm interested in how, you spoke about energy in terms of like healing and feeling. How would you say then that music, just thinking about all those songs, how do you think music influences your approach to therapy, to healing?
For my own therapy, or for other people?
For other people, for your clients?
Yeah, so it's very much a vibration. And the words, if there's words within the song, lyrics within the song as well, it can really trigger an emotional response within somebody. Even the actual vibration of the song, so the frequency of the song. So for example, if I'm doing like a breathwork session, I tend to begin with quite low frequencies, starts to engage, like the root chakra. It can be a lot of like drumming, stuff like that. And then I end on a very high frequency that takes you into like the crown chakra, the sort of more angelic realms, if you like. And it's like this journey that people subconsciously go on without realizing, and it's very like triggering, but in a beautiful way for them. And everybody's different, like when somebody hears a certain part of that music, they'll be having a different experience from what their neighbour is.
Right. I've got you. I'm kind of feeling it. So so I'm thinking now more making that physical, right? How do you then incorporate, because like, you're talking about the drums, and what other sort of like noises, like talk through the kind of different ways in which you incorporate the music or the sounds as you go through the energies.
So drums is a massive one. Drum as in for like the vibration going through the actual physical body. Also, drums can spark a very emotional response. It can take it into our ancestral lines. It can kind of spark this sort of rooty ancestral response from us. But then also chimes. Chimes is very angelic and can take us very deep into hypnosis, into the subconscious mind, and again just into a different realm within the mind. And another instrument that I love to use during my sessions is a Peruvian rattle. A Peruvian rattle is almost, it's like, the only way to describe it is like a shake going up your spinal cord and up through your chakra system. It's like, oh, and they use it, and I know, like, use it and allow you to purge, to bring on like a purge. So when you use rattle with somebody, it can really like, oh, and that shiver from within really release energy that's stored and trapped within the body. It's really, and people usually find it quite unexpected as well. But usually by the point that I use the rattle, most times people are very, very deep.
Wow. That's so yeah, I that is interesting and kind of, you see, when you kind of did that there, I felt it almost. That's my bad back's going. Right, so okay, so when you talk hypnotherapy, right, we'll come on to like our Wim Hof aspects of things. So how do hypnotherapy and like the Wim Hof method, the breath work, for example, complement each other?
They complement each other so well, Graham, because being able to use hypnotic suggestions. So when we breathe and the way that we breathe, in fact, any form of breath work really brings us into a state of hypnosis. So you can have light hypnosis, deep hypnosis. Hypnosis is just an everyday thing. We bypass hypnosis on our way to sleep. So it's when the brain waves change. So right now we're conscious, so our brain waves are in the gamma sort of frequency, gamma waves. Then they move into alpha, then it's theta, then delta. Delta is when you're sleeping, that's when you dream. So if you imagine this sort of band in hypnosis, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. So when somebody's entering into hypnosis, you're entering into the subconscious mind. You're taking the conscious mind out of the equation, which is the analytical mind. It's that part of the mind that wants to question and reason and ask why and what is happening. Take that part of the mind out of the equation, you're completely in your imagination, and you're in the space where all long-term memory resides, your beliefs, your habits, your behaviours. So, if somebody's maybe had a discussion with you prior to their breathwork session, really tailor it to suit that person, to suit that individual. You can go in with hypnotic suggestions, and even if you've not had that initial discussion, you can sort of gear the session towards, you know, realms of the mind. You know, ask probing questions that will get their subconscious mind activated, you know, go into a different space, which is why it works so well. So people think like hypnotherapy or hypnosis or whatever is like this like woo-woo, like entertaining thing. It's really not. It's just an everyday thing. You know, it's meditation, it's breath work, it's relaxation, it's being focused, it's washing the dishes. It's all hypnosis, just when the brainwaves change. So when we understand that, we can really use that to our advantage. And then it's about, right, what do I want to program into the mind? You know, or is there something that maybe I've forgotten that's suppressed within my body or within my mind, an emotion that I had to suppress? Then I can find that. You know, we can really start to navigate that feeling and find it and allow it to be expressed.
See, this is fascinating to me because this is a very much deeper dive into exactly what I say in terms of JFDI. It's like that, you know, have a right good look in the mirror. And what do you see? Who is that person? What are their values? What kind of, you know, behaviors? What are your habits look like? You know, what and who do you surround yourself with? What sort of things do you consume? All of that. And what you're saying is this is some tools and some like real ways to kind of tap in to how you can really address the thing, or not even necessarily address, but actually to dive in and ask some really difficult questions that might give you some startling answers, but also might give you some scary things. Might tell you some stuff that you don't necessarily want to hear, right? Mm. And you know where I'm going with this, because ultimately, I think that regardless of what the way in which like Force Forward and stuff tries to share a message, and what you're doing here and giving people the opportunity to kind of like healing. And I love that word, because like in terms of like, we're not broken, but we've got stuff that we don't know we've got. But it's and this is the challenge is that like, I genuinely believe, I'd love to know, like, worldwide statistically, you know, how many people feel not even comfortable, because I think that this is almost one of the last questions I had for you in terms of the future of holistic well-being. Like, it really depends, and correct me if I'm wrong, on how many people are actually willing to ask the difficult questions and accept what they hear back from themselves, right? Because it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not. And a lot of the time it's because we can't see the future. You know, anxiety is very much predicting the future with a negative outcome, and it's very difficult for humans to often be able to predict the future with a positive outcome. And when we can't see the future and we don't believe that the change is possible, that's where we then become stuck. You know.
Yeah, and it's why for me that, again, I was talking about it last week. It's why there's that acceptance and that's the realization that, like, you know, at some point in time you kind of have to look back and go, well, it's done, regardless, right? It's done and dusted. I can't change it. Do you know what? I might need to give some serious consideration to who I am, why I behave the way I do, you know, for good, for better, for worse, and just kind of go, right, okay. But there's a line at which, and I've also found this, there's a line at which it's kind of like, you know, it's the difference between giving yourself a cuddle, tapping yourself on the shoulder and beating yourself up the backside. But some people will just never answer. They'll never, ever want to see what's inside. And I think that, do you know what? Here's what I think, and then I'm interested in what you think. I think that anybody that's worried shouldn't be worried, because at the end of the day, there's a beautiful soul inside everyone. So whatever, you know, you think, however bad you think that you might be, or whatever you might think you might find and need to forgive yourself or forgive others for, it's all right, because at the end of at the bottom and at the core of all of us, I believe, is just love. and beautiful souls. So don't be afraid. And I know that sounds woo-woo to people as well, but that's what I think. It's like, you know, just be happy, love and be happy, go about life with good intention, and, you know.
Yeah. And then there's like, and I love that. And I know for a lot of people, they can get stuck in the kind of trap of, but life, because life is hard, life is real, and life is hard, life is stressful. But we then need to take accountability for ourselves and know that nobody else can change our trajectory other than ourselves, you know. And there's maybe things in our life that we have to accept and change. You know, we look at behaviours that we're displaying, you know, things that we're soothing ourselves with, you know, how is that hindering us? You know, maybe in the short term, you know, like the wine and the this and the that is making us feel good in the short term, but is that hindering the larger picture, you know, the bigger picture of our life? And that's where we need to then work, and that's where it gets difficult, that's where it gets hard, because that's then when we need to sit with the real emotions. And this is what I love about the Wim Hof method, is it gives us the tools to navigate this stuff. You know, taking an ice bath, for example, really takes you out of that thinking mind, takes you out of, you know, that space in your body, and just allows your body to regulate and restore itself in balance. And then the breath work allows us to process any emotions, and again, just the physicality of it, because it's difficult, and it's difficult for people to accept that it's going to be tough, but usually that comes down to not having the tools to navigate it for themselves.
So I love what you just said there, and what I'd like you to do, because I know that we'll have some fellow Wim Hof instructors, but I know that we'll have other people that watch and listen to this on Spotify afterwards as well. So dive into that a little bit. What is it that you think, like, everybody should hear, right? And it's to anybody that's not tried cold exposure, and anybody that's not like even maybe tried a cold shower, to those that have like maybe dabbled a little bit and gone, ooh, just what you said there about like being able to regulate, right, the body. Just go into that a little bit more for those that, you know, that might, you know, just elaborate a little bit, because I think it's intriguing for people.
Yeah, and it really is. There's so much science behind that, but the body very much naturally regulates itself when we put ourselves into these conditions. As soon as we enter into the cold, the body almost, you know, resets itself, I feel like, and it goes into that survival mode. And how we counteract this is through breathing and exhaling, you know. So we go into stress and then we start to very slowly bring it down, bring us into the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. So if you imagine your body's going through this process, so that's why they call it hormetic stress, isn't it? It's a short-term stress, but while your body is experiencing this and resetting itself and getting all these wonderful benefits, your mind is controlled by breathing. And that's the way that it works so beautifully, because people can often be confused by cold exposure and go, oh, but I'm highly stressed, why would I put myself into more stress? Doesn't make sense. But you're training your brain how to deal with that stress by breathing in a functional way, because a lot of us breathe dysfunctionally, you know, high up into the diaphragm, very shallow breathing. And when we breathe slowly, exhale, we can really train our brain, and it becomes, and then bring it back to hypnosis, it becomes a subconscious thing. You know, you do that on a daily basis, the mind then goes, the last time I went into fight or flight, I done something, I breathed in a certain way, and it controlled that. So you do that day by day by day. Eventually it just becomes a habit, becomes an unconscious thing. Yeah. And that's so powerful about it.
I love teaching this. I talk with some local folk on a weekly basis at one of the local hubs, and I love talking about them, because the word that even the young, there's a couple of youngsters come along with their parents, and they talk about like that word control. Like, and that for me, it's that, like, even at such a young age, it's like that mental aspect, you know, that like actually in training the body and physiologically putting it under that controlled amount of stress, what that can give back to you through just focusing on the breath in like any given situation when you're not in the cold water, and actually just allow the body to, you know, be that a sort of stressful situation at school where you're feeling kind of maybe threatened or quite anxious about going into, and it's like, do what you would do when in the cohort. Now, some of the stories that I've heard, and it's like I just remembered like the going into the ice, and it's like, and hearing that and teaching that. And seeing how, and this for me, it leads into my last longer question. Well, maybe I've got room for one more. But how do you, like, because for me, I'm kind of sold on this whole, right, like what we've talked about, right? I am not a academic man in the sense of degrees and all sorts up the yin yang, but do you know what? I know what I know. And I know that for frequencies, and I know that like, I'm not, you know, there's more to this holistic approach to mental, spiritual well-being, and I think that there's more to come quite quickly. But I'm interested in hearing your, I guess, future aspirations for Manifest Hypnotherapy, but also, I guess, how you see that tying in with the sort of field of holistic wellness evolves over the next few years.
So
I know that's a big question, but
yeah.
I know you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, and when it comes to the business, I have absolutely no plan in place. I'm an Aries. I just go. I'm just like, right, whatever's coming next, let's roll with it and let's just go. So I have no immediate sort of plans, and I don't have, you know, any kind of real plans with the business. How I feel it's going to tie in though with the collective healing is that we are more and more becoming aware of the fact that we are a being rather than just a physical body. You know, we just take care of the physical body. More and more recently, we've you know, kind of acknowledged the mental side of it, and now we're entering more into the emotional side of it. You know, so we've got the mind, the body, and the soul. So we've got all these different elements to us, and in the energetic body as well. You know, so you get like the reiki healing, loads of different modalities, and it all plays a part. And you get nutrition, you know, what we're consuming. So I feel it all just kind of blends and ties in with each other, and I feel like more and more people are starting to get awaken to this. And when I think about awakening, it's not like, you know, like this woke stuff that we talk about. Is so when you're in hypnosis, I need to count you out of hypnosis, put you into hypnosis, and then I count you out, you know, because you're in effect, you're in a sleep state. And I believe that a lot of us are under mass hypnosis, you know, through advertisements and different conditioning and other hypnotic suggestions that we've been given throughout our life. So when we start to wake up, it's starting to come out that slumber and start to think for ourselves, be a free thinker, and start to use critical thinking. Does that make sense to me? Does that sit right with me? Does that feel right for me? So more and more people are doing this, and that's a frequency. So the more people do that, the more people will start to follow suit. Yeah, it's like planting the seeds. So somebody sees somebody else doing that, they go, oh, your life used to be a bit chaotic, now you're doing this and that. So it inspires others. So this is a massive collective thing that's happening. And I see over the next few years, especially towards 2030, I see that there's going to be a massive shift in humanity and consciousness. And it's already happening. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like this is this trajectory that we're on. So it's hard to actually predict where we're going to be. But I do believe we're going to be in a much better place collectively. I don't see this going back the way, because it's so powerful, because we've got so much knowledge now. We've got the internet as well, which we never used to have. It used to just be back in the day, it was just the media that was printed, you know, so that was all you really had access to, that and books. You had to go to a library to get this information, where now it's like turn on your phone, turn on TikTok, and you're getting Barbara O'Neill telling you about all you know, we get this knowledge at our fingertips now. Yeah.
I know it's insane, and thinking like where we're kind of going with the world. And I've been thinking a lot and talking a lot about AI of late as well. Interesting kind of mix split of opinion. I mean, I'm from a technology background, so a lot of things that I read and see are very pro, and certainly, but I have heard a number of people they're not for it at all, and I personally am of the ilk. Do you know what? It's like if you don't move with the times, you'll end up probably complaining about not wishing you'd done something at a certain time in the future. But you know what? It's very, very interesting times in terms of all of that sort of how that affects things within. I mean, do you know what? And here's a perfect example. Two things that have fascinated me in terms of like bringing the wellness industry onto the gaming console. Have you heard of an app called Trip?
Oh, I have actually. I don't know much about it. I don't really know anything about it, but I have heard of it.
So it's basically a meditation app for, like, I think we've got it on like PSVR, but you can get it for like Oculus Rift and any of these virtual reality headsets. And it's basically music. You can have it as guided or just unguided if you like. And it's essentially soundscapes. But you've got like sort of psychedelic kind of visuals for like the meditation. I got the app. It's quite formulaic after a while, but there's so many different scapes that you can combine. It's fascinating, and it actually, if you do it in a darkened room, it's kind of pointless. You need to be in a real darkened room, have the sound right. So that's one. And the other one, have you experienced Grant and Reese's oxygen experience?
I haven't yet. This is something.
Oh, it's awesome.
Oh no, wait a minute, tell a lie. Actually, at Darren's, at the festival at Darren's.
Oh, at Clinical.
Yeah, I had a little go of it. They put the headset and the.
Oh, you did. I think we maybe did it around the same time at the stall.
Yes, at the stall.
Oh, right. So I mean, right. Okay, you've got to go. You've got to go to one of the upcoming events. They're doing an open day soon. I'm going to try and get up and go, but I don't know whether or not they'll be back. But there's one for it. I'll speak to you about it later. There was one that they did where I did. It was like an hour long. Oh my Lord! And it was amazing. You've got to try it. So that's the other tip. Anyway, one last question for you, because we're an hour and 20 in. I could have thought it was like 5-10 minutes we've been chatting. But before I let you go, have you got anything collaboration wise, upcoming projects that you're maybe a little bit excited about?
There is, apart from Tarbert, there's nothing really in the pipeline yet. I will say that though, yet, although I have collaborated with a gym in Kilmarnock, which I'm really excited about. I'm through there and I'm going to be bringing the Wim Hof method into Evolution Gym. So that's going to be really amazing. So it'll be exciting to see where that goes. I am hoping to collaborate throughout the year with other instructors and other folk in wellness. So if anybody's listening and you're in wellness and you want to collaborate, please reach out, because it's not something that I've done much of, but it's something that I absolutely love doing. Yeah, definitely, I really want to do that, but no immediate plan as yet.
Right. Okay, and you need to come through to float at some point. We need to get you. We need to get you through here.
That's what I'm thinking about it.
Yes. Well, any time. There's another session next. There's another session next Tuesday night. You know. Mm-hmm. I don't know how Tuesday nights. Anyway, we'll speak later. Tell people that are listening or watching what's happening in Tarbert.
Ah, yes, the Wild Medicine Festival. And we have got such a big presence there, the Wim Hof Method instructors in Scotland. So we're going to be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We've got the Big Breathe on Sunday, so everybody's welcome to come along to that. It's just going to be phenomenal. And we're also going to be there kind of throughout the day, each of the days, offering ice baths, offering mini workshops, mini breathing sessions. You can come and see us, well, any questions that you've got, but the actual festival as a whole is just going to be phenomenal. There's so many amazing speakers, there's so many different modalities that's going to be there that you can go and try out. So yeah, if you have the opportunity, if you haven't already bought a ticket, come along, because it's incredible. Last year was great and that was just the first year of it, so I cannot wait to see what
I'm really excited. In fact, there was a little bit of me that got a little bit more excited. I think it was it must have been Sharon's idea as we were listing stuff down, and she was saying, right, what do we want to call the breathing sessions? And when she'd put hers down and Stuart had kind of got his on there, and you've got yours, and I said, we'll just do GFDI breathing.
I love it.
So I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. Very excited. Listen, an hour and 20 minutes sharing your story. What I say, the three little things that is my intention when I bring people on to share their music, sharing their stories, inspiring action, and listening to. It's what I love about how you've kind of, from where you began, and through life, and the way in which you've responded to some of the challenges, the way in which you've responded to life. It is like just, I get it myself. It's that JFDI is like throughout the story that you've had to tell. So inspiring action, like you said as well a couple of times, if those changes, I think the number of times I've said to people lately, it's like, what's the one thing that you would have in life if you could? What's the one thing that would make you happy? If if you didn't blame anybody else, if there were no problems and you could have just like complete happiness, what would that look like? And it's like when you look at all the lessons learned throughout life, it's that aspect of, one person hears one thing, so I love connecting the dots here, and the way in which we tie the music into it. For me, it's been absolutely wonderful listening to your story, Victoria. So listen, thank you so much for coming on and sharing that, and some great tunes. I don't want you to go anywhere, but listen, any final, before any final messages for people listening, I do a little quick fire, but because we've been on a while, I don't care. It's a JFDI show, it doesn't matter. I've had folk on here for 2.5 hours. I don't really think it makes any difference. But a couple of little things that I wrote down, always do different ones depending on who's coming on. So I've got just 4 quick fire questions. Are you up for them? Right, okay, dead easy one to start off with. Favorite food? Favorite, let's not have the I'm a wellness practitioner. What's your favorite guilty pleasure? What's the dirty choice?
Well, I love steak. I absolutely love a big juicy meaty steak, I have to say it. With roast potatoes, all the trimmings, like a roast dinner but with a big juicy steak.
Oh yes, lovely. Okay. Just in short, how do you JFDI? I've heard the story, but if you could just in a sentence, how do you JFDI?
I just JFDI. I just go. Go. Don't think, just go.
I love it. Yes, just go. Yeah.
Just go. As soon as you start thinking, that's what hinders the process. And you
Yeah.
just go. Get it done.
What would the book of your life be called?
That's easy. Manifest.
There you go. Manifest. And this one, maybe I know the answer to this, but I wouldn't like to preempt or presume or assume anything. So if you could choose one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, give me a wee second for this. I love this. Oh God, I'm taking this so serious because I'm going to wake up with it tomorrow. I'd love to fly. I'd love to fly because I could get places really, really, really quickly. And like I know that's probably not what you're thinking, but yeah, I could get anywhere. Like I could just I'd love to just be able to fly to the other side of the country, the other side of the world, just get places, and then also I could hide. I could be hidden at times as well. I could go and fly up into a tree.
I get that, and so would you maybe like to be discreet and fly at a pace that wouldn't appear to sort of get in the way, almost ninja stealth like?
Yeah, and just be able to like a rocket, just get places, and then I could go certain places and do things. I could do good, and then I could just fly off again before I was ever caught.
The Flash coming. Oh, Victoria, listen, please don't go anywhere because I've got one final favour for you.
Yeah.
For anybody listening, that's not. There's one person still listening live. So if you're listening live, if I can get the one last favour from Victoria, you might want to watch my Instagram in about 5 minutes. And for anybody listening back, final words from tonight's wonderful guest, Victoria Cumming. Anything you'd like to say to anybody out there? I sometimes do this. So why should the last words come from me? For me, we'll speak to you next week on the JFDI show when we've got another instructor coming your way. Watch the posts for more news. And to say goodnight, last words to Victoria. Take us out.
Love it. I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you, Graham, for having me on. But thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Thank you to anybody that sat and watched and listened and heard my story. And yeah, just if you can take anything away from this, like that, speaking about the butterfly, just that transition, that growth, please just believe in yourself. I know it sounds so cliche, so cheesy, and we hear it all the time. But honestly, if you're sitting in some sort of dark place, or you're sitting and you're questioning yourself, questioning your life, just know that there are tools, there's choices that you can make, and just make it about you. Create your own life, making you the star of the show. Again, it sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but do that for yourself and give yourself that opportunity. We've got one life. And it is over so quickly. So make yourself the star of the show and just go. Just JFDI.
Sharing your stories and playing your songs on Graham's JFDI show.